So every tech wave over the last 30 years has really promised to help run the sales floor kind of on its own. So from the sales floor, how is AI different from the last five transformations? I, I think one of the biggest differences is AI can really engage with data in a way that none of the other technology changes has. So it can put more useful information that is timely and specific in front of a team member instead of just giving lots of data. So I think it's the usefulness that comes from AI and the relativity of the information in the moment that makes the biggest difference compared to just other technology that was pure productivity. I think certainly from what I've seen in these early stages of AI and kind of relating that to previous technology pilots that go out, what I'm seeing today is there's a lot of companies that want to quote do AI, right? So they're looking for something that ties them into AI. They want to be kind of on that cutting edge, but they don't really answer the question of what is it that we want to accomplish with this and why. So, the first thing I would tell any business that's going into piloting something with AI is what do you hope to accomplish with this? And be really, really clear on what your answer is with that and what you hope to get out of it. And then really understand why is it that you're doing that? Like not only is it what is it going to solve, but why is that important to your business? And then you can, which should lead to some other questions around what and why and how that come from it. But I think right now there's so much rush to getting something in that they're rolling it out and they're not even fully understanding what the results are that they're getting back. And I'm not even sure that they clearly defined what great looked like or good looked like before they went into it. So, then you've spent this time, money, and effort in a, as you put it, splashy pilot. And then there's, lackluster results, which you don't even really know if they're truly lackluster or not because you didn't define what it was you were looking for in the first place. So, I think pause for the moment before you go into your pilot and understand what is it that you're hoping to accomplish, and then really define what it's going to look like for you. Then I think you'll get much different results in whatever pilot that you're doing. And honestly, you might even understand, am I doing the right pilot to begin with? Because I think we want to get to pilot, and we really don't always know what it is we're hoping to land once we get in there. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons right now we read a lot of articles that say AI is not producing the ROI that everyone hoped it would. Until someone can define what they hoped it would, I don't even know if that's a true statement or not. So I think that's where you have to take that step back and make sure you understand what you're going after. Look, every time you're doing a test or a pilot, you're assuming that it's perfect conditions, like this is the only thing going on. Rarely are the realities of a store being taken into consideration with it. And again, that's something really important to understand around a pilot, because by the way, if it happens in pilot stores, it's going to happen in some percentage of the rest of your stores. So you really do have to learn and take those things into consideration. But I think frequently it's not considering, is the store that's selected for pilot, are they staffed correctly? Is this really the right person? Do they understand why we're doing this? What was the communications plan that went into this? Back to the previous question, do they understand what we're trying to accomplish and why? Because if they don't, then they're probably not going to be able to really answer how it's working for them in their particular store. So it takes a little more time to understand those things, and there's going to be no perfect set of stores to pilot in. To a certain degree, you need to get a representative sample of your chain, because if you get all of your very best store managers in on a pilot and you get them all fired up and they're all excited about your splashy pilot, and you change the conditions by which a normal store would be functioning, i.e. you give them additional labor or you give them some additional support in some other form or fashion, that's just not going to scale the same way when you get it to other stores. So it's really important to really understand those things going into it. And I'd say that for any type of pilot, but even more so when it's something new and unknown, like so much of the AI technology is today. If you don't really understand what the reality of it is and what the reality of the stores are, you're probably not going to get a good read on what it's going to look like when you go into the next group of stores or a larger group of stores or the chain. I think there's a lot of, you can come at this from a lot of different angles. Um, I think AI can help store managers. I think they can help prioritize a little bit. And this is where having the right tools, it's not about better task management. It's not about better scheduling systems. It's not about better communication platforms. Um, it's not about better ordering. I mean, all of those things are actually really important, but it's about having a tool that can help look at all of those things and then really squeeze out what the most important things are, knowing what it can know about the store, right? So, I think it's tricky because the store manager knows what's going on in their store better than anyone. And it would be difficult to get AI in its current state to understand all those factors. But it probably can see a lot of things more so than most people would would estimate if it's across the entire platform. So now imagine, some form of AI that's looking at the communication, the tasks, the scheduling, the freight flow, what's selling in the store, what categories are doing well, how long your team has been with you, so the tenure of the company. It may now be able to look at all of those things very objectively and make recommendations on how you can prioritize your day, your week, your month. Um, I do think that, and this is the hardest part, we've seen it with other technology, right? I mean, like scheduling systems have been smart for a lot of years, right? I mean, what we call AI was called machine learning before, and there were scheduling platforms out there with optimized schedulers that were doing a form of AI years and years and years ago. It's very difficult to find store managers that believe a system can write a better schedule than they can because, quote, they know their teams. But the human side of that is you're not as objective as the AI or the computer is, right? The computer is going to look at it and say, hey, this is the reality of your business. Your business comes at these times. This is when you need a person. The flip side of that is, but the store manager is going to be like, yeah, but this person can only do this, or they're not as trained as this person is over here. And yeah, they start to bring in the human element. That's why it's still got to be a complete blend of these things. There's not one, like AI couldn't run a store. Like you would, the store, it just wouldn't work. But it can help a store manager look at their business more objectively and really try to point out in context, here's why I think this is relevant. You should spend some time with this person or in this area of the store because sales are down compared to other stores like yours across the chain. Make sure people are trained. It can suggest all of those things that a store manager might just not be thinking of or might not even have the time to think of. That's where I see AI really being able to help at the store level. And then I think in the reverse of it is it can start to get signals from the store level and feed that back to a centralized team so that they can see things across a network very objectively as well. That's a really hard thing to do. Because there's a lot of scheduling systems out there that still haven't figured out how to get store managers to trust the system, and that's not a knock against any of those vendors. There's lots of great applications out there, um, but we're human, and we want to believe that what we're doing is right, and we certainly believe it's right for the team at the moment. Um, I think this is one where it's continued trial and error. It's about, let's give it a try. Let's understand what it can do. Let's understand what it can't do. So much of this, again, and this is where, again, prioritizing time and then investing in time is Store managers are not going to trust something until they know it's going to help them do well with the people who are evaluating them, right? And not just, it's not about, oh, I used the new tool today and I tell my district manager I used the new tool. It's about being able to demonstrate it, but it's also about, a district manager or regional manager showing, hey, here, have you tried this? Let's give it a try. And then doing it together versus hoping they'll do it on their own and really drawing their own conclusions. I mean, and this is going to require conversation and engagement on both parties' part, right? So that's the hard thing, is that takes time. And everyone feels rushed and they feel like they've got to get to the next store. And but that's where, if you really want them to trust it, you've got to kind of do it together and then solve for what you don't understand or what you don't like and try to figure out why. Because in a lot of instances, again, when you take the subjectivity of it out and you get more to the objective part, at least they may understand the objectivity of why it's getting the result that it's getting. Then you can decide, okay, what's the right balance between purely machine-driven objectivity and human-driven subjectivity. It not working. If you say it's going to do something and then it doesn't do it, then people are going to lose faith in it, right? And then if it just continues to fail, and look, I'll use a kind of an example that probably everybody knows, that gives the example, right? And that's Apple Siri, right? So I mean, look, I'm a big Apple lover, but Siri has always felt like it, other than when it first rolled out, it always has felt like it's behind and never living up to its hype, right? So then a couple of years ago, when they say, hey, Siri's going to do all these cool things and it's going to know all about you. And then when it rolls out and it doesn't do it, or it just didn't roll out at all, you lose a lot of faith in it, right? So that applies to any other tool that you have. If you say to store managers, this is going to, so some of that also comes with one, setting realistic expectations and a proper change curve right up front, right? Anytime there's something new, there is a learning curve, and those can be challenging times. So be honest about that. The great things don't happen on day one. They happen on day 20 after you've used it for 19 days, right? So you're going to have to go through the highs and the lows, and then you're going to get it to where you want it to go. So, I think the best way to overcome that is to set very clear, realistic expectations. Don't overhype it. Don't make it sound better than it's going to be. Be realistic about what it is, because otherwise you can't ever re-earn that trust, and then it's a broken system. And I've lived that, right? I mean, I've rolled out scheduling systems, told the teams, hey, this is going to make your life much easier. And then it didn't work the way they expected it to. And no matter how hard you try, even when it starts to get better, there's no convincing them to trust the tool, because it lost the trust at the beginning, because either it didn't work or you overhyped it for what it could really do. So that's the most important thing, is just get that right from the beginning. Get both the messaging as well as the functionality aligned, and then you can grow with it along the way. And I'm going to guess that most people would say the same thing, right? Like the people interaction, the human interactions, like you can't have AI fire somebody. You can't have AI do performance counseling or management. Um, there are just certain things, and I don't know. Maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I fail to see it, certainly in my lifetime, where any computer can empathize and just have the true human to human interaction that's required in any business. It's not just retail, right? But people are people. And sometimes you have to be able to read their face, you've got to read their eyes, you've got to hear in their voice. What are they really saying? What are they really hiding? What's really there, right? I mean, so when you go sit down to have a hard conversation with somebody, you've got to be able to hear the human inside of them. Otherwise, it's just this cold, one-way conversation that will never lead to a better outcome, right? It's I just don't think that can ever be replaced. Again, I certainly can't see it. I would never advocate for that. There's plenty of stuff AI can do to help you get ready for those kinds of conversations and counsel up to, but the actual conversation still got to be human to human. And then you've got to be a human in the interaction. So um, I don't, again, maybe it's one of those things I don't ever want to see replaced by a computer, no matter how good they get, even if it can read facial expressions, it can hear tone and voices. I just want to see another human being talking to me if it's a difficult situation, and preferably in person, right? I know we also live in a world where sometimes the stuff has to be done over video calls or stuff like that. But at least that I feel is one step better than just the chip inside a computer. Even if you put a really human looking avatar up there, it's just not going to be the same as knowing you're talking to another human being who can empathize and understand what you might be going through. I think a true win is not about who brought it to the table or the technology itself. The true win is for the company, and it solves that what and that why that we talked about at the beginning of the segment, right? Is it really a win if you didn't solve what you were hoping to get out of it? If you said, "Hey, this is what I need it for, and this is why I need it," and you get to the end and the results got better, but you didn't actually solve the what and the why that you set out to. First of all, is that a win? I mean, look, anytime you get positive growth or good results, I say take it, but that probably means you still got something on the table left to go after. Um, I think a lot of times technology and rollouts break down because it does become about somebody and the credit or not, or the blame that goes with it, versus if a company commits to new technology, then the company's got to be all in and everyone wins together or fails together, period. Doesn't matter who brought it to the table at the beginning. It doesn't matter who did what along the way. Everyone has their role, everyone has their responsibility in making it be successful. And if it rolls out and it's a win, then everyone did what they were supposed to do. And that should be celebrated holistically and not individually or independently. Um, that's not to say that there can't be some kudos and some recognition for individuals that contributed at a higher level or got us started or whatever. But it doesn't make it any more important. They all have to play together, and a win for the company is a win for the company, and everybody gets to celebrate in that. Because again, you're going to roll out to hundreds and hundreds of stores. Even if it's successful and it's working well, some percentage of the store population is still not actually on board. But the company's still winning, and they get to do that too. And you hope that that continues to bring everybody along to ensure that the results just continue to get better over time because everyone continues to use it to its full potential. And then you hope that tool continues to evolve and get better and better as well. So, yeah, I don't think it's ever any one person, and it's no different, good or bad, right? So there's no one finger to point to either if it doesn't roll out successfully and you don't get the results. There's everybody to look at, because it's really a team effort to make it work or not. I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. What makes a successful store successful? It's still going to start with the store manager. They've got to believe in it. They've got to be curious. They've got to be courageous to kind of give it their all, right? And really go all in on using the tool and making sure that that they're giving it its full opportunity. The ones that don't are closed down really quickly and are more close-minded. See, I told you this never was going to work, or these things never turn out the way they're supposed to. They're just they're just never going to get it to its full potential. So again, you're leaving opportunity, but that's again why you have district managers and regional leaders to make sure that They're getting the support they need and the coaching that they need to see it in different ways and to, help them have more of a growth mindset than someone who's really closed off. I mean, the way the world works today is if you're not trying new things and you're not exploring new technologies, you're going to get left behind at some point. I don't think everybody has to run out and be experts in AI today, but I think everybody should be curious about it and start testing it and seeing how it works for them and what they specifically need, both as individuals as well as organizations. In running the fastest and the furthest right now, I don't know if that's the most important thing. I don't think people who are leading the way with AI at this very moment will necessarily be the ones leading the way 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. The ones who stay curious and continue to explore the potential, those are the ones that are going to continue to move the needle, and they're going to be the ones that are found at the front of the pack down the road as this continues to mature. We're in very, very early days. If you think about some of the original scheduling systems, or, I use that as a pretty good proxy for technology. Some of the people who built some of the very first smart scheduling systems, those vendors, they've been absorbed into many other vendors that have come on after them. Because they didn't evolve with it. They thought they were at the cutting edge and they didn't keep being curious or asking questions. So some of them went away. Some of them got absorbed into other companies who were asking those kinds of questions, and they use that technology to help, leapfrog. This AI is going to be no different. There's companies out there that are testing things and pressing the boundaries, and there's some that are doing it just to kind of layer on to their existing technology. It's too early to tell who's really going to lead the way. But if you're not trying, you're not curious, you're not exploring, then almost certainly you will get left behind in the not too distant future.